Jake Morrison had been living on Frontier 7 Station for 8 months now. The 22-year-old student spent his days studying alien life forms and writing reports about creatures from different planets. The station floated in space near a small moon, far from Earth. 12 different alien species worked together there, all part of something called the Galactic Council. Today was supposed to be simple. Jake and 5 other scientists would take a shuttle down to the moon's surface. They would collect plant samples, take pictures of rocks, and scan for any interesting life forms. Nothing dangerous, nothing exciting, just another regular day of research work. The team leader was an alien named Kelthar. He came from a species called the Vexorians. They looked like tall lizards that walked on 2 legs and had 4 arms. Kelthar had been doing this kind of work for 30 years. He knew what he was doing. The shuttle landed in a rocky valley between 2 mountain ranges. The moon had breathable air but lower gravity than Earth. Jake felt lighter on his feet as he stepped out onto the gray and red stones. His suit kept track of his heart rate and body temperature. A camera on his helmet recorded everything he saw. For 3 hours, the team worked without problems. Jake found some interesting purple moss growing in the shadows. Another scientist discovered small insects that lived under the rocks. Kelthar seemed pleased with their progress. Then everything went wrong. The ground started shaking. At first, Jake thought it was an earthquake. But the rumbling had a pattern to it. It sounded like footsteps. Very large footsteps. Kelthar's face went pale. Which Jake had learned meant the alien was terrified. The team leader grabbed his communication device and shouted orders in 3 different languages. The message was clear even to Jake. Run. Run now. Something came around the edge of a tall rock formation. Jake stopped and stared at it. His brain tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The creature stood 10 feet tall on powerful legs. Its body was covered in dark armor that looked like insect shell but thicker. 6 eyes glowed red in its massive head. Arms that ended in blade-like claws hung at its sides. When it opened its mouth, Jake saw rows of teeth designed for ripping and tearing. One of the other scientists screamed. The creature's head snapped toward the sound. It took a step forward, and the ground shook. Kelthar was running now, pulling 2 of the scientists with him. He yelled back at Jake and the others to follow. Jake wanted to run. Every part of his body told him to run. But his legs would not move. He just kept staring at the monster. The creature lowered its head and sniffed the air. Then it made a sound that Jake felt in his chest. A deep rumbling growl that promised death. Jake finally understood what he was looking at. During his studies, he had read about a species called the Krell. They were supposed to be extinct. The records said they were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. They had hunted entire civilizations to extinction before disappearing themselves 3,000 years ago. But this one was not extinct. This one was very much alive. And it was looking at the fleeing scientists like a cat watching mice. The Krell took a step toward Kelthar's group. Its muscles tensed, ready to chase them down. Without thinking, Jake bent down and picked up a rock the size of his fist. He threw it as hard as he could. The rock hit the Krell right between 2 of its eyes. The creature stopped. It turned its massive head slowly toward Jake. All 6 eyes focused on him now. Jake felt his heart hammering in his chest. What had he just done? He had made himself the target. But at least the others could get away now. The Krell made that rumbling sound again. It took a step toward Jake. Then another step. It was not rushing. It was not attacking yet. It was studying him. Jake heard Kelthar screaming his name from somewhere behind him. The team leader was yelling at him to run to the shuttle. But there was a problem. When Jake looked back, he saw that a section of cliff had fallen. Rocks blocked the path between him and the rest of the team. He could not reach them. They could not reach him. He was alone with the predator. The Krell seemed to understand this at the same moment Jake did. The creature's mouth opened in what might have been a smile. It lowered its body into a hunting stance. Jake ran. He scrambled over rocks and jumped across gaps between boulders. Behind him, he could hear the Krell following. Not running at full speed. Just following. Like it had all the time in the world. Jake's suit computer beeped a warning. His heart rate was going up fast. The computer suggested he stop and rest. Jake almost laughed. Rest? With that thing behind him? He ran between two tall rock walls into a narrow canyon. His boots slipped on loose stones, but he kept his balance. The canyon twisted and turned. Maybe he could lose the Krell in here. Maybe it would give up. A roar echoed off the canyon walls. The Krell was not giving up. Jake kept running. His lungs burned. His legs already felt tired. But he could not stop. Behind him, the footsteps continued. Heavy and steady and patient. Back on the station, Commander Lisa Hayes sat in the control room, watching the helmet camera feed from Jake's suit. She had been monitoring the research mission like she always did. When the Krell appeared, she had ordered an immediate rescue operation. But the shuttle could not land in the rocky terrain where Jake was now. The pilots needed time to find a safe landing zone. Time to navigate around the magnetic interference the moon was producing. 4 hours into the chase, Jake was still alive. He could not believe it himself. His muscles screamed at him to stop. His throat felt dry even though he kept drinking from the water pack in his suit. Sweat ran down his face and back. But his legs kept moving. The Krell stayed behind him, sometimes close, sometimes far, but always there. Jake had learned things about the creature during these 4 hours. It was fast when it wanted to be. Much faster than him. But it did not stay fast for long. After a quick burst of speed, it would slow down again, like it was saving energy. The creature was also smart. When Jake tried to climb up a cliff face, the Krell did not follow him up. It went around the long way and waited at the top. When Jake tried to hide in a cave, the Krell just sat outside the entrance. It could wait longer than Jake could hide, so Jake kept running. He used the moon's low gravity to jump between rocks. He slid down, slopes on his back. He waded through shallow streams of water, anything to keep distance between himself and the predator. On the station, Lisa Hayes watched everything. Other people had gathered in the control room now. Scientists, military officers, even some of the alien diplomats. They all stared at the screens showing Jake's camera feed. A Vexorian doctor named Silthar kept checking the medical data from Jake's suit. She shook her head in confusion. "This is not possible," she said. "His body temperature is too high. He should have collapsed from heat exhaustion by now." Lisa looked at the numbers on the screen. Jake's core temperature was indeed elevated. But it was still within human survival range. "Humans can regulate heat through sweating," Lisa explained. "We can keep moving for a long time if we stay hydrated." Silthar made a clicking sound that meant disbelief. The Krell should have caught him in the first 20 minutes. That is how long prey survives against them. That is what all the records say. "Well," Lisa said quietly, "maybe the records never tested Krell against humans before." Hour 6 came and went. Jake's pace had slowed, but he was still moving. He had developed a pattern now. Run for 30 minutes. Walk for 5. Drink water. Run again. The Krell had also changed its approach. The predator was not playing anymore. It was hunting seriously now. But something strange was happening. The creature was breathing harder. Its movements were becoming less smooth. Jake noticed this during a rest stop. He had climbed onto a large flat rock to get a better view of his surroundings. The Krell was about 200 meters behind him. The creature stood still, its mouth open, its whole body rising and falling with each breath. It looked tired. Jake's mind raced. How was that possible? The Krell was a perfect predator. It should be able to run forever. But as he watched, the creature took several minutes before it started moving again. Then Jake understood. The Krell was built for short, explosive hunts. Its muscles were designed for power, not endurance. Its body burned energy fast to generate that power. And now, after 6 hours of continuous pursuit, it was running low on fuel. But Jake was built differently. Humans had evolved to chase prey across open plains under a hot sun. They would follow animals for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. It was called persistence hunting. And Jake was doing it now without even planning to. He was not the prey. He was making the Krell into prey. This realization gave Jake new energy. He climbed down from the rock and started running again. But now he had a plan. He would keep the pressure on. Keep the Krell moving. Tire it out even more. Hour 8 arrived. The sun on the moon was setting. The temperature dropped fast. Jake felt the cold seeping through his suit. His fingers and toes started to go numb, but the cold affected the Krell more. The creature's movements became sluggish. It stopped more often. Once, it even stumbled over a rock. Lisa's voice came through Jake's helmet. "Jake, how are you holding up?" "Cold," Jake said between breaths. "Tired, but okay. How much longer until the shuttle?" 6 more hours, Lisa said. She sounded sorry. "The magnetic storms are worse than we thought. We need to wait for them to clear. 6 more hours. Jake looked back at the Krell. The predator had stopped again. It was watching him. From about 100 meters away. "I can do 6 more hours, Jake said. He did not know if that was true. But he would try. Night fell completely. The moon had no large celestial body to reflect light, so the darkness was nearly total. Jake turned on his helmet light. The beam cut through the black, showing him the path ahead. Behind him, he saw 2 glowing red eyes. Then 4. Then all 6. The Krell's eyes reflected his light back at him. Jake ran into the darkness with a monster following behind. Hour 10 was the hardest. Jake's body wanted to quit. His legs felt like they were made of stone. Every step hurt. He had blisters on his feet. His water was running low, but he could hear the Krell behind him. The creature's breathing was loud and ragged. It was suffering too. Jake found a stream and stopped to refill his water pack. While he waited, he gathered sharp rocks and put them in his pockets. He was not sure why. Some instinct told him he might need them. The Krell appeared at the edge of his light. The creature moved slowly now. When it tried to charge at Jake, it only managed a slow trot. Jake easily dodged to the side. The predator stopped and made a sound Jake had not heard before. Not a roar. Something closer to a wheeze. It was struggling. Hour 12. Jake was walking more than running now. But he was still moving. The Krell followed at an even slower pace. The gap between them had grown to nearly half a kilometer. Jake's suit computer showed his location. He had covered over 40 kilometers of rough terrain. No shuttle. No roads. Just rocks and hills and valleys. Commander Hayes had told him that no alien in Council records had ever moved that far on foot while being hunted. Most species would rest when tired. Humans just kept going. Hour 14 approached. The sun started to rise again, bringing light and a little warmth. Jake saw something ahead. A narrow ravine cutting through the rocks. An idea formed in his tired mind. He looked back at the Krell. The creature was far behind now, but still coming. Still hunting. It would never give up. That was what the records said about Krell. They never stopped hunting once they picked a target, but they also never expected the prey to fight back. Jake entered the ravine and started preparing. His hands worked quickly despite his exhaustion. He wedged rocks into cracks in the walls. He found old survey equipment someone had left behind years ago. The Krell moved into the ravine slowly. Its blade-like claws scraped against the stone walls. The creature's breathing filled the narrow space with harsh, ragged sounds. Jake stood 30 meters away, holding his metal spear with both hands. His whole body trembled from exhaustion and fear. But he did not run. There was nowhere left to run. The predator stopped and studied him. For the first time in 14 hours, Jake and the Krell faced each other directly. Neither moved. The moment stretched out, then the Krell charged. Despite its exhaustion, the creature still moved with terrible speed. Its claws extended. Its mouth opened wide. Jake had maybe 2 seconds before it reached him. He did not try to fight it head-on. Instead, Jake threw himself to the side at the last moment. The Krell's momentum carried it forward. One of its blade claws struck the ravine wall and stuck in a crack between rocks. The creature pulled at its trapped claw. Jake saw his chance. He grabbed one of the wedged rocks he had positioned earlier and yanked it free. The rocks above it shifted and fell, creating a small cascade. The Krell roared as heavy stones crashed down on its lower body. The creature thrashed wildly, trying to free itself. But Jake had chosen this spot carefully. The more the Krell struggled, the more rocks came loose. Within minutes, the predator was pinned from the waist down under a pile of stones. It could still move its upper body and its deadly claws, but it could not chase Jake anymore. Jake backed away and collapsed against the opposite wall of the ravine. His legs finally gave out. He sat on the cold ground, gasping for air. His spear clattered to the stones beside him. The Krell stopped struggling. It stared at Jake with all 6 eyes. The creature made a low sound that might have been anger or frustration. Jake stared back. His mind felt fuzzy from exhaustion. He should leave now. The shuttle would arrive soon. He could walk away and let the rescue team deal with the trapped predator. But Jake did not move. He sat there, watching the Krell watch him. The creature's breathing was bad. Jake could see its whole body shaking with each breath. Heat radiated from its dark armor. The Krell was overheating. Its biology was designed for short hunts in cooler climates. 14 hours of pursuit in rising temperatures had pushed it past its limits. Jake looked at his water pack. He had maybe a quarter left. Not much, but enough. He made a decision that he could not fully explain even to himself. Moving slowly, Jake stood up. The Krell's eyes followed him. Its claws tensed, ready to strike if he came too close. But Jake did not approach directly. Instead, he opened his water pack and poured some onto the ground in front of him. The water pooled on the rocks. The Krell's eyes fixed on it. Jake poured more water, creating a small stream that flowed toward the trapped predator. When the water reached the Krell, the creature flinched back. Then, carefully, it extended its tongue and tasted the water. The Krell drank. Its whole body seemed to relax slightly. Jake sat down again, keeping a safe distance. He drank some water himself, then poured the rest toward the Krell. The creature drank again. For several minutes, neither of them moved. Jake pulled out a ration bar from his suit pocket. He bit off half and chewed slowly. His jaw hurt from clenching his teeth during the long run. The Krell made a sound. Not aggressive this time, more questioning. Jake broke off a piece of the ration bar and tossed it toward the predator. The Krell sniffed it, then ate it in one bite. "You are probably still going to try to kill me when you get free," Jake said out loud. His voice sounded strange after hours of silence, broken only by heavy breathing. "But you look like you need food and water right now." The Krell tilted its massive head as if listening. Of course, it could not understand human language. But something in Jake's tone seemed to calm it. Jake tossed another piece of ration bar. The Krell ate it. Up on the station, the control room had fallen completely silent. Everyone watched the screen showing Jake's helmet camera. They saw the human student sitting 3 meters from a trapped Krell apex hunter, sharing food and water. Commander Lisa Hayes stood with her mouth open. Next to her, Kelthar made a series of clicks that his translator rendered as, "This is madness." A young Felixian scientist named Pix spoke up. "Why is he not running? The shuttle will be there in 30 minutes. He could leave now." Lisa shook her head slowly. "I think he is doing something else. Something I have seen humans do before." She paused. "He is trying to make a connection. With a Krell?" Kelthar's forearms gestured wildly. "That is impossible. Krell do not connect. They only hunt and kill. Maybe," Lisa said quietly. "Or maybe no one has ever tried this before." Back in the ravine, Jake had stopped shaking. His breathing had calmed. Sitting still felt wonderful after 14 hours of running. His body desperately wanted to sleep, but he forced himself to stay awake. The Krell was also calmer now. Its breathing had improved after drinking the water and eating the ration bars. The creature still watched Jake, but the murderous intensity in its eyes had faded somewhat. Jake started talking. He did not know if it would help, but talking made him feel less alone. "You know, back on Earth, humans used to hunt animals, kind of like you did," he said. "We would chase them for hours until they got too tired to run. Then we would kill them for food." He paused. "But we also learned to tame animals, to make them part of our group. Wolves became dogs. Wild cats became house cats. We even made friends with horses and elephants." The Krell's ears, if they were ears, seemed to twitch at the sound of his voice. "I do not think you and I can be friends," Jake continued. "You are a predator. I am prey. That is nature." He took another small sip of water. "But maybe we can have respect. I ran from you for 14 hours. You chased me for 14 hours. That means something, right?" The Krell made a sound that was almost like a rumble, not aggressive, just acknowledgement that Jake was making noise. 20 minutes later, Jake heard the sound of engines. The rescue shuttle appeared above the ravine. Its lights swept across the rocks. Jake stood up slowly. The Krell tensed, its claws extending. "Easy," Jake said softly. "I am just leaving now. The rescue team will come get you out of those rocks. They will take you somewhere safe." The shuttle lowered a cable. Jake grabbed it and secured it to his suit harness. As the cable started to lift him up, he looked down at the Krell one last time. The predator watched him rise into the air. Its 6 eyes followed his movement. But it did not roar. It did not thrash. It just watched. Jake raised one hand in what might have been a wave or a salute. Then the shuttle pulled him inside and the door closed. The rescue team found Jake lying on the shuttle floor, already asleep. His suit's medical system showed extreme exhaustion but no serious injuries. Just blisters, dehydration, and exhausted muscles. Commander Hayes met the shuttle when it docked at the station. She looked at the sleeping student and shook her head in amazement. "Get him to medical," she ordered. And someone explained to me how a 22-year-old graduate student survived 14 hours against a Krell. No one had an answer. Back on the moon's surface, a specialized containment team approached the ravine. They used heavy equipment to carefully remove the rocks, trapping the Krell. The creature did not fight them. Which surprised the Galactic Council chamber was designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Today, it was completely full. Word had spread fast about the human student and the Krell. Representative Voranis of the Keltharian Empire called the emergency session to order. The Keltharians were one of the oldest species in the Council. They had been exploring space for over 10,000 years. Voranis had lived for 3,000 of those years himself. "We are here to discuss the incident on Frontier 7, Voranis said. His voice was translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "A human survived a Krell hunt. This should not be possible. We need to understand how it happened." Commander Lisa Hayes stood at the human delegation's platform. She had prepared for this meeting by gathering every piece of data about Jake's survival. Medical records, suit telemetry, video footage, scientific studies about human biology. "The Council may speak," Voranis said, gesturing to Lisa. Lisa activated the holographic display. It showed Jake running through the rocky terrain, with the Krell behind him. "Members of the Council. What you are seeing is not luck," Lisa began. "This is human biology, working exactly as it evolved to work." A Vexorian representative stood up. "Impossible. Humans are weak. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons. How does such a species outrun a Krell?" Lisa smiled slightly. "We do not outrun them. We outlast them." She brought up a chart showing human versus Krell stamina over time. The Krell is built for explosive power, short, fast hunts lasting minutes. But Jake Morrison ran for 14 hours. The Krell's body could not sustain that kind of activity. "But the heat," a Felixian scientist said. "The medical data shows the human's core temperature reached dangerous levels. He should have died from overheating." Lisa nodded. "Humans sweat. We are one of the few species in the galaxy that can cool ourselves through liquid evaporation." Jake was sweating heavily during the entire chase. That kept him alive. She pulled up another image showing human skin covered in sweat glands. "Most species in this council overheat quickly during sustained activity. You must stop and rest in shade. Humans can keep going. On our home planet, humans used to hunt animals by chasing them under the hot sun until the prey collapsed from heat exhaustion. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Many representatives were checking their own databases, confirming what Lisa was saying. Voranis raised a hand for silence. This explains survival, but it does not explain the outcome. The Krell is now contained in our research facility. It shows no aggression toward humans. It tried to attack 3 Vexorian handlers yesterday, but it allows humans to feed it. How do you explain this? Lisa paused. This was the harder part to explain. We believe Jake did something that triggered a response in the Krell's psychology. He beat it in a contest of endurance. Then he trapped it. Then, instead of killing it, he gave it water and food. So? Another representative asked. So the Krell's instincts recognized Jake as a superior hunter. Someone worthy of respect. Or possibly someone to follow. The chamber exploded with noise. Representatives shouted questions and objections. The idea that a Krell could be influenced this way contradicted everything in their databases. Voranis called for order again. You are suggesting that humans can somehow bond with one of the most dangerous predators in galactic history? Not bond exactly, Lisa said carefully, but establish a relationship based on mutual respect. Humans have done this with dangerous animals on Earth for thousands of years. A holographic screen appeared showing images from Earth. Humans working with wolves. Humans riding horses. Humans training birds of prey. Even humans swimming with creatures called sharks and crocodiles. Humans have a pattern, Lisa explained. If something is dangerous, we study it. Then we either make friends with it, or find a way to coexist with it. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We tamed wild cats. We even kept dangerous predators as companions once we understood them. A Keltharian scholar stood up. This is concerning. Are you saying that humans could potentially do this with other species? Not just animals, but sentient beings. Lisa chose her words carefully. Humans form bonds easily. Sometimes too easily. We get attached to things that might harm us. We try to find common ground with beings that are very different from us. It is part of our nature. Another representative spoke up. We need to study this human. Jake Morrison. We need to understand his psychology. That has already been arranged, Voranis said. But I want to address a larger concern. He looked directly at Lisa. How many humans have these abilities? Lisa met his gaze. All of them. Every human has the capacity for endurance running. Every human can sweat for temperature regulation. Every human has the instinct to form bonds with other species. Ah, the silence that followed was heavy with implication. A military advisor from the Vexorian Empire stood up. If one untrained human student can survival bond with a Krell, what could trained human soldiers do? Lisa had been expecting this question. Human military forces are trained for endurance, adaptability, and rapid problem-solving. They are also trained to work with local populations and form alliances. So yes, trained humans would likely be even more effective at these skills. Voranis leaned back in his seat. The Council needs time to process this information. Commander Hayes, your species was welcomed into the Council as peaceful explorers and scientists. We are now learning that humans are something more complex. With respect, Lisa said, humans are exactly what we told you we were. We are explorers. We are curious. We make friends easily. We are also survivors from a planet that tried very hard to kill us for millions of years. Those traits are not separate. They are all part of the same package. Over the next 3 weeks, teams of scientists descended on Frontier 7. They wanted to study both Jake and the Krell. Jake woke up in the medical bay 2 days after his rescue. His body ached everywhere. When he tried to stand, his legs barely supported him. The doctors told him he had run the equivalent of 3 marathons over rough terrain with no training. You are very lucky to be alive, Dr. Silthar told him. Most species would have died from the exertion. Jake just nodded. He did not feel lucky. He felt tired, but the scientists would not leave him alone. They wanted blood samples, muscle biopsies, psychological evaluations. They asked him hundreds of questions about his thought process during the chase. "Why did you give the Krell water?" one psychologist asked. Jake thought about it. It looked like it needed water. It was suffering. But it was trying to kill you. It was not trying right then. It was trapped and overheating. That seemed cruel. The psychologist made notes. Humans have empathy even for their predators? I guess so, Jake said. Is that strange? The psychologist did not answer directly, but later, Jake heard her telling a colleague that human psychology was disturbingly inconsistent. They could be both ruthlessly practical and unexpectedly compassionate. Sometimes in the same moment. Meanwhile, other scientists studied the captured Krell. They named it Subject 07. The creature had recovered its strength in captivity. It was fed regularly and kept in a large, temperature-controlled habitat, but its behavior confused everyone. 07 was aggressive toward most species. It had to be sedated when Vexorian or Felixian staff approached, but when human researchers entered its habitat, the Krell would calm down. It would watch them carefully but made no threatening moves. One researcher, a woman named Dr. Helen Carter, spent hours observing the Krell. She had studied animal behavior on Earth before joining the galactic research community. It thinks humans are pack members, she concluded. Or, at least, it thinks this Jake Morrison is a pack leader. The other humans might be part of the same pack by extension. 6 months had passed since the incident. Jake Morrison had returned to his studies, though his life was very different now. He was famous across the entire Galactic Council. Students from dozens of species wanted to meet him. Scientists wanted to study him. Military leaders wanted to recruit him. Jake found it all overwhelming. He just wanted to finish his degree and study alien life forms like he had planned. But everything had changed. His thesis topic had changed too. Instead of studying simple organisms, Jake was now writing about predator psychology and cross-species communication. His main subject was 07, the Krell that had hunted him across the moon. Jake visited the Krell twice every week. Each visit followed the same pattern. Jake would enter the observation area outside 07's habitat. The Krell would approach the barrier. They would spend time in each other's presence without words or violence. Sometimes Jake brought different foods to test what the Krell liked. Sometimes he played music from Earth through the speakers. Sometimes he just sat and took notes on 07's behavior. The research team had learned a lot in 6 months. They now knew that Krell could make over 30 different vocalizations. Each one meant something different. 07 made a specific sound when it saw Jake, a low rumble that the researchers thought might mean recognition or greeting. Dr. Helen Carter had become Jake's primary advisor. She was fascinated by the relationship between Jake and the Krell. "You do realize what you have done, right?" she asked Jake one day, as they watched 07 move around its habitat. "Survived?" Jake said. Helen laughed. "More than that. You have proven that one of the most dangerous species in galactic history can be influenced by social interaction. Do you understand how that changes everything we thought we knew?" Jake watched 07 play with a large metal ball the researchers had given it for enrichment. "I just gave it water when it was thirsty. I do not think that is so special." "But it is," Helen insisted. "Every other species in the council would have either killed the Krell or run away. Only a human would think to offer it water and food. Only a human would try to make a connection." She pulled up data on her tablet. "We have been studying human history since your incident. Do you know what we found? Humans have been doing this for your entire existence as a species. You find dangerous animals and you try to understand them. Sometimes you tame them. Sometimes you just live alongside them. But you always try." Jake shrugged. "Is that bad?" "It is terrifying," Helen said honestly. "From the Council's perspective, humans are a species that will try to befriend anything, even things that want to eat them. That makes you unpredictable. And very, very effective at survival. The Galactic Council had reached similar conclusions. Over the past 6 months, they had conducted extensive studies on human capabilities. Representative Voranis presented the findings to the full Council Assembly. "We have completed our analysis of human biology and psychology," he said. "The results are concerning." He brought up a series of charts and graphs. Humans possess a combination of traits that are individually common but together create something unique. They have endurance that rivals the best long-distance species. They have problem-solving abilities comparable to the most intelligent races. They have emotional range that allows both ruthless survival instinct and unexpected compassion. He paused before continuing. Most troubling, they appear to be immune to the psychological terror effect that many predator species use. The Krell naturally project an aura of fear that paralyzes most prey. Jake Morrison felt that fear, but he acted anyway. This suggests humans can function under extreme psychological pressure. A Felixian representative raised a concern. "Are we saying that humans are a threat to the Council?" "Not a threat exactly," Voranis said carefully. "But they are more formidable than we initially assessed. They come from what we now classify as a death world. A planet where almost everything is trying to kill you. Humans evolved to survive in that environment. Those survival traits are still present." Another representative asked, "What do we do with this information?" Voranis looked at Commander Lisa Hayes, who was present for the meeting. "We adjust our understanding. Humans are not the peaceful explorers we thought they were. They are peaceful explorers who are also incredibly good at surviving hostile situations. There is a difference." Lisa stood to respond. "The Council does not need to fear humanity. We are not conquerors or warmongers. But you are correct that we are survivors. We have had to be. Our planet made sure of that." She activated a holographic display showing Earth. "This is our homeworld. It has extreme weather, predators that evolved alongside us, diseases and natural disasters. Humans survived all of it, not by being the strongest or fastest, but by being adaptable and forming communities." The image changed to show humans throughout history, building shelters, making tools, helping each other survive. "We learned that survival is easier when you work together," Lisa continued. "That is why we try to form bonds with other species. It is not manipulation or strategy. It is just what we do naturally." The Council accepted this explanation, but they also took action. Human involvement in first contact situations was quietly increased. Military advisors started requesting human perspectives on dealing with hostile species. Scientists wanted human researchers on teams exploring dangerous environments. Humans were being recognized not just as curious explorers, but as specialists in survival and adaptation. Back on Frontier 7, Jake's routine continued. He visited 07 regularly. The Krell's behavior had stabilized. It was calm around humans, still aggressive toward other species, but the researchers had learned to work around that. One day, Jake noticed something new. 07 had arranged rocks in its habitat into a specific pattern. When Jake studied the pattern, he realized it looked like the ravine where they had faced each other 6 months ago. "It remembers," Jake said softly. Dr. Helen Carter, who was observing with him, nodded. "Of course it remembers. That hunt was probably the most significant event in its entire life. It met something it could not defeat through normal means. That changes how it sees the world." "Do you think it hates me?" Jake asked. Helen considered the question. "I think it respects you, maybe even trusts you in its own way. Krell psychology is not well understood, but we are learning. 07 sees you as part of its social hierarchy now. You are above it in rank because you won the contest." Jake watched the Krell move stones around its habitat. "It seems lonely." "It probably is," Helen admitted. "Krell were thought to be extinct. This might be the last one in existence. You might be the closest thing it has to companionship." That thought made Jake sad. He pressed his hand to the barrier. 07 looked up, saw Jake, and made that familiar rumbling sound. Then it approached and placed its claw against the barrier opposite Jake's hand. They stood like that for several minutes, a human and a Krell, connected by a 14-hour hunt that neither would forget. A reporter from the Galactic News Network came to interview Jake later that week. The interview was broadcast across Council space. "How do you feel about becoming the first human to befriend a Krell apex hunter?" the reporter asked. She was a Felixian who looked nervous throughout the entire interview. Jake thought about the question. "I do not know if befriend is the right word. We have an understanding, I think. It knows I am not prey anymore. I know it is not just a monster. We both survived something difficult together." "But the Krell wanted to kill you," the reporter said. "It was just doing what predators do," Jake replied. "I cannot be angry about that. It is like being angry at a storm or an earthquake. It is just nature." "Do you think other humans could do what you did?" Jake smiled. "Probably. Humans are pretty good at adapting and surviving. We have been doing it for a long time. Is there anything you want to say to the galaxy about humanity?" Jake considered this carefully. "I guess I would say that humans are complicated. We can be fierce when we need to survive. But we also try to find peaceful solutions when possible. We like making friends, even with beings that are very different from us. That is just who we are." The reporter thanked him and ended the interview. But one exchange got replayed millions of times across the galactic network. The reporter had asked, "Are humans dangerous?" Jake had replied, "Only if you make us be. But we would rather be friends." That simple statement became something of a motto for human relations with the Galactic Council. It was printed on posters, quoted in diplomatic meetings, discussed in classrooms across hundreds of worlds. Humans were dangerous when necessary, but they preferred friendship. The Galactic Council slowly adjusted to having humans as active members. They learned to value human endurance and adaptability. They learned that humans could survive situations that would kill most other species. They learned that humans would try to make friends with almost anything. And they learned to be a little bit nervous about what that meant. Because if humans could form a bond with a Krell apex hunter, one of the most feared predators in galactic history, what else could they do? The answer to that question was still being discovered. But Jake Morrison, graduate student and accidental ambassador, had shown the galaxy one important truth. Humans were survivors. They had evolved on a dangerous planet and learned to adapt to anything. They would run for 14 hours if that was what survival required. They would fight when cornered. They would show compassion to their enemies when the fighting was done. And they would keep trying to understand the beings around them, no matter how alien or dangerous those beings might be. That was what made humans unique. Not strength or intelligence or any single trait. It was their stubborn refusal to give up. Their creative problem-solving. Their ability to see potential friends where others saw only threats. The galaxy was learning to appreciate those qualities, and to be just a little bit careful around the peaceful species from the death world called Earth. Because humans, it turned out, were full of surprises. And Jake Morrison, sitting quietly with a Krell that once hunted him across a moon, was proof of that. "Krell do not have packs," a Vexorian scientist objected. "They are solitary hunters. Maybe they are solitary because they never met another species that could challenge them properly," Helen said. Jake challenged this Krell and won. In the Krell's mind, that makes Jake worthy of respect or allegiance. The theory was controversial, but the evidence supported it. When Jake finally visited the Krell habitat 3 weeks after the incident, 07's reaction was unmistakable. The creature approached the transparent barrier separating them. It made a low, rumbling sound. Then it did something that shocked every observer. The Krell lowered its head slightly. A gesture of acknowledgement, maybe even submission. Jake pressed his hand against the barrier. The Krell lifted one claw and placed it against the barrier opposite Jake's hand. They stood like that for a long moment, predator and prey. Or perhaps, two survivors of an impossible hunt. The Galactic Council watched the video footage of that meeting. They had many questions. But one question concerned them most. What else could humans do that the Council did not know about? Said everyone. When they finally freed it and moved it into a reinforced transport container, the Krell did something that shocked the entire team. It turned its head toward where the human had been, and made that same rumbling sound. The team leader, a Vexorian military officer, reported this behavior immediately. "Sir, the Krell is not acting aggressive toward the humans on the team. It growled at the Vexorians and tried to bite a Felixian. But it just watches the humans." This information made its way to the Galactic Council within hours. An emergency meeting was called. Something unprecedented had happened. A human had survived a Krell hunt. More than that, the human had somehow changed the Krell's behavior. The council needed answers. And they needed them fast. Oh, and pulled off a metal rod. Using stones, he sharpened one end into a point. It was not much, but it was something. The Krell appeared at the entrance to the ravine. The creature paused. Its 6 eyes studied the narrow space. This was a natural trap. If something blocked the exit, the Krell would be stuck. But the predator was too tired to care about caution now. It needed to end this hunt. It entered the ravine, moving toward Jake with the last of its strength. Jake gripped his makeshift spear and waited. His heart pounded, his hands shook, but he stood his ground. After 14 hours of running, the prey had become something else. The real hunt was about to begin. Me that Jake might not have. Lisa watched the screen showing Jake's vital signs. His body was under extreme stress. But he was still moving. Still thinking. Still alive. She opened a communication channel. Her voice came through the speaker in Jake's helmet. "Jake, listen to me. We're coming for you. But you need to stay alive for the next few hours. Can you do that?" Jake's breathing was loud in the microphone. When he spoke, his voice shook, but he sounded determined. "I'll do my best, Commander." "Good. Now run, Jake. And don't stop running." Jake ran. Behind him, the Krell followed. The hunt had only just begun.